you all, countrymen and countrywomen. My name is ARON MAGAMBO. I am the General Secretary of Uganda Professional Science Teachers Union, a union that brings together all the scientists in the education sector and specifically in the post-primary institutions of learning. Of recent, there has been a raising concern about the poor performance of science subjects that has persisted for quite long, for decades now. Every year, UNATU brings out results. They say science subjects have been performed poorly. And this has been attributed to science teachers part-timing in various schools and hence not giving enough time to their jobs. But we say, as a union, that look, it is something beyond science teachers part-timing that is causing the poor performance of the science subjects. And this has to do with the poor working conditions science teachers work in. Many schools do not take care of their science teachers. Science teachers go to the labs to teach practicals, to conduct experiments when they are not protected. They are not given protective gears, face masks, gloves, lab coats. They simply go to the lab to interact with chemicals and acids when they are not protected because these equipment and lab supplies are not supplied to them. So many of them have fallen victims of laboratory accidents. Some have lost lives, some have become impaired, they have become lame. For example, we have Mr. Lubanga Awad, who was working at Bukoyo SS, and this gentleman was burnt by acids. He became impaired and he could not work anymore. And when they saw he could not work anymore, he was forcefully retired with less compensation. He was simply given 10 million occupational hazard compensation, which was too low. Right now he's out of work, he cannot take care of his family. We displayed him of recent. We have Tugule Benson, who was burnt by acids also of Kasaka SS recently, and is still battling for his life. We have Timseo of Umbare SS, Masete, who was also burnt by acids as he was trying to prepare some substances to use for teaching. And right now, his health is also not good. So when we are talking about increasing salaries for science teachers, unfortunately, the government has come out to increase salaries to 4 million. It shouldn't be looked at as discrimination. After all, this is a government policy which starts with scientists, after which they will embark on those of humanities. So we call upon everybody to support this policy, such that all workers, at the end of the day, can be able to benefit. We have had voices coming up trying to reject this offer given by government to the scientists first. But we want to categorically state it clearly that Uganda Professional Science Teachers Union is an independent union. It is an independent platform for science teachers. Nobody speaks for science teachers apart from Uganda Professional Science Teachers Union. And therefore, we will not tolerate anybody trying to interfere with this policy. Because they tried to interfere with it in 2018, and science teachers were paid for 2 months, the enhanced pay of 2.2 million, and was later withdrawn on the basis that science teachers are not scientists. We ask ourselves the question, if you say science teachers are not scientists, yet they produce these other scientists, doctors, agriculturists, engineers, environmentalists, and many others, how can somebody who is not a scientist produce a scientist? Can a cow produce a goat? So we look at this. It was done to belittle science teachers and the teaching profession in general. It happened, but we have been trying to undo this because we have followed it with various government departments and officers, including Equal Opportunities Commission, which of recent made a ruling and a recommendation about the same. In their observation, they noticed that science teachers were discriminated from the rest of other scientists in 2018 and have since recommended Ministry of Public Service to have this corrected. We are happy with the government of the Republic of Uganda, specifically the President of the Republic of Uganda, for coming up with this policy again. And this time around, we are watching. Nobody will touch this policy. We shall not accept the science in education sector to be belittled, to be marginalized again on the basis of people saying science teachers are not scientists, then others saying it will cause discrimination between science teachers and then those of humanities. There is nothing like discrimination here. It is a policy that starts with scientists first, and then it will end with those of humanities. Because scientists are not only in education sector, they are scientists in all other sectors, other ministries and government departments. Why is it that it is only in education sector where people have to raise voices against the increment? But when it comes to other sectors, there are other workers who are non-scientists, but they have allowed those scientists in those sectors to receive the enhancement, as it was seen in 2018. Even now, after it was announced recently by the Minister of Communication and ICT, nobody has spoken about the increment of other science in other sectors. It is only in the education sector where people are already raising voices, raising concerns that science teachers do not deserve this money, that science teachers, similarly there will be discrimination. All this is propaganda aimed at failing this policy. But we want to clearly say again, to reiterate that this time around, we are watching. And we are not going to accept anybody to actually interfere with the affairs of scientists in the education sector. It happened those days, this time round, they must forget. We want also to pass this message to government that the poor performance of science subjects has as well been due to the fact that there is a limited number of science teachers in public schools. You find only one chemistry teacher, for example, in a school, and this has to teach all the classes from senior 1 to senior 4. Now, in this case, and you find those classes are divided into 2 or 3 streams. So you find that this teacher is overloaded with many lessons and with many students to take care of. So by the time these learners sit their final exams, they are actually not prepared well. They are half-baked, in other words, and therefore they cannot perform well. So we call upon government to recruit more science teachers so that the ratio can be improved. The teacher-to-student ratio can be improved. We also want to appeal to government on the line of supplies. In most cases, science teachers have a challenge in that the laboratory supplies are not enough. The chemicals, some other lab equipment that must be supplied regionally to conduct regional practical lessons so that the required skills are imparted in the learners as demanded by the syllabus of the respective subjects, you find when they are not in place. And at the end of the day, the teaching does not go on well. So we call upon the government to enhance on that. But this problem is again normally magnified by administration, which is not balanced. You find both administrators, the head teacher and the deputy, are both of humanities. And to them, equipping laboratories regionally, they look at it as the unnecessary financial burden. This leaves science teachers' work to continue being difficult and cannot produce the required results. So we call upon the Education Service Commission and the Ministry of Education to come up with a deliberate policy to balance the recruitment of administrators, such that if the head teacher is a scientist, then the deputy should be of humanities. And if the head teacher is from the side of humanities, then the deputy should be a scientist. That is how we can be able to balance this, and the science teaching will improve and in the long run, results will also improve. So we want to appreciate you for the time you have given us, and we want to assure the public and everybody that we will not sit this time around and watch people coming up to rob science teachers. In the 2012, government came up with the policy to give science teachers an extra allowance of 30% because of the work they do monthly. This allowance was consolidated into a salary scale, U4 science and U5 science, in 2014. But it kept on dwindling. And today, the science percent, the 30%, is no longer there in the salaries of science teachers. And nobody cares. So we are saying this kind of belittling science teachers and teachers in general must stop. And we will not tolerate it this time around, because we have an independent union and we have an independent voice as science teachers. I thank you.